Aloha and good afternoon. My name is Jürgen Steinmetz, joining you from eTurboNews and live stream in Honolulu, Hawaii. And with me is Dr. Peter Tarlow in College Station, Texas. It's a nice, little bit of a cloudy day here, but good temperature, good way to be outside and at the beach, and many people are. And I don't know how things are in College Station, but you just got back from Mexico anyway. But
Right.
welcome, Peter.
So the weather in Mexico was quite lovely, and it wasn't overly hot. It was just a perfect weather. But the forecast for today in Texas was supposed to be very rainy and very cold. And I'm thinking this is going to be terrible because I'm coming from Mexico and I didn't really bother to bring a lot of heavy winter clothes. And of course, you have to get to the car and you get soaked. And I was in a sport jacket. But anyway, somehow the weather decided to be my friend rather than the other way around. And the weather was quite nice for most of the day. And that's really terrific. So we had sun and it was very lovely until the very end of the day when all of a sudden a cold front came in, and it's cold, but not yet rainy. So I'm thankful that I got home and I didn't have a problem and I wasn't freezing to death. I was able to drive home in 70-degree weather or 21 degrees in Celsius and with sun. So that made the drive home much nicer. Mexico is always a great place to visit, and we can talk a little bit about some of the really innovative ideas that they're coming through with.
Yeah, no, we'll definitely do that. And I was surprised you sent me some photos from the United Airlines lounge in Houston, Texas.
Yes.
And last time I was at the lounge, that was in Honolulu, most of and all of the food items were in plastic. And in Europe, you even have to wear gloves to touch them. Tell us, how was it in Houston?
It was terrible. First of all, I really wonder what's going on with United Airlines. On a first class ticket coming from Mexico or going to Mexico from Houston, which is a shorter flight, but still it's a first class ticket. They call it business class. They serve pretzels and a small little biscuit. Not exactly, and that's for lunch or dinner, which is not exactly a very heavy meal. But in the lounge, much to my shock, it was just open tables, open trays, and you could, there weren't even plates. So there was a little thong that you could pick in a little fork that you could pick up the sandwiches with. But of course, somebody could sneeze on the sandwiches. Nothing was wrapped. And I was really flabbergasted that how loosey goosey they were when it came to questions of health. And I said to them, don't you at least put it on a plate? They said, no, just take it on a napkin. So you can imagine people were dropping things, and it was really surprising uh, how they had gone from really very careful sanitation, and to make it even more chaotic, they had a sign up that said, "We have changed our menus to order to reflect the ongoing health crisis in COVID." I'm thinking, wow, you're creating a health crisis. You're not stopping one. So that was kind of a unique. I hope maybe that was an exception. I hope so, because I don't think the world should be ready to just have open buffets where basically you're able to just pick up sandwiches. There's a fork or something to pick them up with. And it's not even a sandwich, it's a quarter of a sandwich that you can take as many as you want, of course, but they're cut and they're and it's open and they can't stop you from sneezing or coughing or getting the food sick.
Well, but it's also, isn't it also a little bit of a token of thinking we're getting back to normal, or do you think it's too early?
I don't think even at normal this was a good thing to do. Because if you go to a buffet, they have a sneeze bar over it, or they have some protection. But this did not have. This was just an open tray, and let's assume, just take COVID out. There's still the issue of the fact that you don't know if somebody's touching the food, sneezing on the food. Anything could be happening. So I would suggest, if you go to a buffet in Las Vegas or some of the restaurants that are buffets, they're all very careful in how they allow you to take the food. This was very haphazard.
Well, times are changing, and with COVID, it looks like the worry and the precaution in place for COVID are kind of vanishing. Here in Hawaii, I can tell you we had 16 people dying on COVID today, what is, I think, the highest number ever for one day.
Wow.
And, but there seems to be no worry. Luckily, the infection rates are going down, but they're still way up compared to what it was a year ago. But no one is concerned. Everything is opening, and we're going to go away, I heard, in March, most likely with any type of restriction.
Yeah, that's taking place in a lot of places around the world. Are starting to drop all restrictions. Part of it is because I think the public is just fatigued, and secondly, because as the virus has changed, while it has spread more quickly, most cases have not been very serious, and so it's kind of like, how many restrictions they're going to have because of a bad cold, or we never had restrictions because of flu. And I think the public is just tired. And I see the real manifestation of that, of course, is what's going on in Canada with the truckers protests. And you might agree with the truckers or disagree with the truckers. It's certainly, I would argue that I think Trudeau made a major, major mistake. And now, of course, he's basically put in what appears to be almost like martial law, where they can, if they don't like what you say, they can freeze your bank account or seize your money, which is really tragic. But if you like or don't like it, the fact that you had a newspaper in Canada saying that the word freedom is a illegitimate word is just mind-blowing. And this is impacting also Canadian tourism. People are a little bit afraid to go to Canada right now. The borders are pretty much closed. Of course, almost all trade is closed. And all the truckers really have to do is say they're not going to work. And these people were the people who worked during all of 2020 during COVID. They're in a cab, a trucking cab by themselves. So it's not like they're interacting with the public. And they are, again, I don't want to get into Canadian politics, but at least from outside, it appears that they may be a little bit too strong in their reaction, but I think people are tired of COVID regulations. And you're seeing this, lots of states are getting rid of mandates and masks. I believe it was Iowa today said that it would get rid of all the mask mandates. And again, the public is just tired. And you see that also what happened in the elections in San Francisco, where the most liberal city recalled 3 of its school board members. Um, and people are saying enough. And especially school children are just suffering terribly. For the few people that we saved from COVID, how many people do we lose because of suicide and depression and mental health problems that we've created? The other part of that, of course, is what the Johns Hopkins study, which is now the study of studies, which showed that the lockdowns were a complete failure. And that they say 0.0, not 2%, 0.002% of lives, but created tremendous economic damage and created tremendous psychological damage, and people being beaten up, families collapsing, so that the results did not justify the whole lockdown process, which people are going to look back in 100 years and think these people were crazy.
Yeah, it's hopefully they do. And let's hope we get out of this entire situation very
Yes,
soon. But the
yes.
industry looks optimistic. We just today, February 17th, was declared in Dubai at the World Expo as the Tourism Resilience Day. And this was done by the Global Tourism Resilient and Crisis Management Center based in Jamaica, actually, with centers now around the globe. And the Jamaica minister, Edmund Bartlett, together with the Kenya minister, Najib, and both heads of states intervened by video, now declared February 17th as the Tourism Resilience Day. So let's be resilient. And how resilient is Mexico? Tell us a little bit about
I think Mexico is really showing real signs of resilience. I'm very proud of them. Part of when you have a problem is recognizing the problem and then beginning to solve it. And the worst part of a problem is when you put your head in the sand and you decide not to see it. So the Mexicans do realize that they have had some issues when it comes to safety and security. They are facing those issues head on. They're trying to create all sorts of really wonderful plans. I was in Mexico speaking with people of what's called the Guardia Nacional, which is more or less like a civil police. They are understanding that tourism security is much more than just having a police officer patrol. It means teaching them everything about tourism security, understanding that a visitor who loses a passport is also in somewhat of a level of trauma. How do we train police to go from being reactive to proactive? And what I was really impressed by Mexico is the fact that they are looking at these problems, they're studying them, they're coming up with creative solutions that will allow Mexico, I think, within the next 5 years, to not only be one of the world's truly great tourism powers, but one of the safer countries, because they're thinking through each problem they have and how will they solve it, and how will you interact anything, be it disease, because COVID will come and go, but we don't know what pandemic will come down the pike in 3 years or 4 years. It could be something completely different. They're working to have the infrastructure to be able to face those types of things. And they're also looking to have the security infrastructure that will allow people to come, have a good time, spend their money, go home, and their biggest problem might be that they got a little bit too much sun. So I'm very proud of the Mexicans. I think they're really facing the issues head on and trying to solve them.
It becomes of course, it becomes a necessary reaction. Mexico, of course, is not immune against problems. I mean, we're looking at the recent shootings in Cancun, right in front of the Hyatt hotel in one case. So, but it is commendable that Mexico is understanding the problems and is doing something about it. If this would be just ignored and whitewashed in fancy PR campaigns, it wouldn't resolve the problem. But I think Mexico is trying to resolve the problem.
And that's really, up until recently, the tourism industry has often looked at issues of crime as a marketing issue rather than as a security issue. And that means that you never get to the root causes of the crime, you never get to understanding what's going on, and you never get to come up with solutions that might solve it. And they don't have all the answers. I don't think anybody would in the world has all the answers. That would be only God maybe knows that. But they're at least exploring, facing, trying to deal with the challenges, and coming up with something which is a plan that will allow the country to move forward. Now, they also understand it's a huge country, and the needs at a beach community such as Cancun are going to be very different than Mexico City, which is basically business tourism or national type tourism for government and things like that. So they're making their plans flexible enough that they'll be able to deal with anything from beach tourism to mountain hiking to urban tourism to cultural tourism to historic tourism. And that's resilience. That really fits in with today's world resilience. And I think as part of that resilience, today we also had a special statement from our own World Tourism Network and a number of other tourism organizations about the whole concept of peace through tourism and how important that is. And we need the peace through tourism in Canada. We need it in Latin America. We need it in parts of Africa. We certainly need to be thinking about peace through tourism in the situation in the Ukraine, where we're getting mixed information, and what could possibly take place in the Pacific, Asian Pacific. So those are all areas where, God forbid, if there is a major shooting war or a cyber war, which could even be more damaging, that cyber war could literally knock out the entire infrastructure of whole nations.
No, absolutely. I mean, the peace factor in tourism, of course, is a synergy, what always has been there. And I know the World Tourism Network actually teamed up with the International Institute for Peace to Tourism, and to make sure that when we're talking about resilience, the importance of world peace is there, is a major part of it in order to keep tourism function. It's peace and security, obviously.
Without peace and security, tourism will die. And so different nations are going to have different issues. In Mexico, it's one set of issues. In Eastern Europe, we have a different set of issues. In the Asian Pacific area of the world, we have another set of issues. Latin America and Africa, other issues. But in all cases, there's a sense of violence and the fact that visitors are not going to go to a place if they feel their lives are in danger. We saw that, of course, with COVID. And the whole idea of resilience is to build oneself up so that you have that type of strength and be able to say, we will face the problem, we will think about solutions, and if those solutions don't work, we're going to be caring enough to admit they didn't work and find another solution. And that, to me, is true resilience.
Absolutely, Peter. Well, I'm glad you made it back home.
I did.
And, I think you're going to go back to Mexico soon, right?
Yes, I'll be going back and forth. I'm working with a number of Mexican resorts and really developing true resilience through peace and security. And so today was a perfect day for us to have this broadcast, because a country without peace and security loses one of its true gems, which is the world of travel and the world of tourism. And it's our job, your mine in the World Tourism Network and other institutions such as the International Institute of Peace Through Tourism, to try to help the world be a little bit nicer, a little bit kinder, a little bit more understanding. And by doing that, you know what? We improve the lives of people economically, but also politically and just socially. Living, we all live a little bit happier if we don't have to worry about being shot.
And that's what we want. Well, Peter, I guess we're going to talk in a few days.
Okay.
And stay safe. And
yes.
If there's any breaking news, we're going to cut in whenever it happens. And
well, enjoy Hawaii and try to be peaceful there. And Hawaii has some wonderful things, but of course, one of the nicest things of Hawaii is its state motto, aloha. So the idea that they bring people the sense of love and caring and understanding in the aloha spirit. We need that throughout the entire world.
Absolutely. Well, for everyone else, if you wanted to listen to this broadcast again, it's going to repeat on eTurboNews and our network. So simply go to our YouTube channel. You can click on it from any of our websites, and you can listen to this and our many other discussions Peter and I had, and everyone else has featured on our platform. From Hawaii, good night, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are, and aloha.
Aloha. Bye bye. Have a good evening. Bye bye.